How's it going, fellow Mandalorians? Yes, and I say Mandalorians again because this was majoritively, again, another Mando episode, and one that had so many good moments in it, and we were all wondering ever since Mando Season 2 ended, are we going to get Luke Skywalker and Grogu training scenes? And what will this mean moving forward? What does it even mean as of the end of this episode? We got a little bit of a dribble of Boba Fett back at Tatooine, and yeah, Cad Bane. There is just so much to talk about. I loved so much of this, but I am also quite interested in everyone's thoughts on the very ending scene with what Luke proposed to Grogu. I'm not so sure if I agree with the way they've tackled it here. Despite me being a massive fan of everything we saw in this episode, all the basically fan service we got, if I really try and remove my bias and look at it objectively, I do have a little bit of a about the last moment, and you guys will see what I mean. And like, honestly, if you truly look at it in the way that this character Luke Skywalker has operated himself within the original trilogy, and even after that with what we know of him, I would just love your honest thoughts down in the comments with what he actually put forward to Grogu. I'm not sure if it actually fits. But anyway, we pick up right at the beginning of the episode with Cobb Vanth. This is a nice foreshadowing to who arrives later to Mos Pelgo, or should I say Freetown. Here he was dealing with some Pykes who were trading spice, and of course he is sheriff, so he doesn't want that around these parts, and he basically threatens them, even tells them to warn their syndicate. And I thought, okay, that's a bit ballsy. I know you're the sheriff, I know you're looking out for this town, but you do realize if you are telling one of them to go back to tell the syndicate, they could just like roll over here in force. And that is exactly what they did, and I kind of like what they did through bringing Cad Bane in later, because it really shows you how much might and force that this Pike Syndicate actually have. Because sure, you could say they had a lot of muscle or Pike troopers or whatever, but no, they have really high profile bounty hunters on their payroll as well. And this, guys, is where we got the beginnings to something that I genuinely didn't know if it would happen or not. And, you know, I'm a really big Star Wars fan, so I'm very biased to this, which is why, you know, we are going to try and remove that bias at the end and then talk about the thing I have a little bit of an issue with. But say what you will about this show, whether it's great, whether it's just mid, whether it's actually not so great in areas, this just speaks to my heart. This is something that I think will always really sing to the heart of Star Wars fans, especially given recent Star Wars years. Up until that final scene, I feel like everything we had with Luke Skywalker and Grogu was just something that I think we've been yearning to see from Luke Skywalker, or Mark Hamill, if you will, just for years and years. And we haven't really always had it, unless you count the Mandalorian Season 2 ending. And just seeing him literally in the beginning of his Jedi recruiting, Jedi training phase. I mean, after all, he did say to Grogu at the end, if he accepted the lightsaber, Yoda's lightsaber, he would be his first pupil, and that he would become a great Jedi. So this technically is Luke Skywalker's first outing himself to train someone. Unless I'm really forgetting something, he is acknowledging that Grogu would literally be his first pupil. So right here, we're also witnessing Luke probably think, oh, am I doing a good job at being a master here? Like, even though he obviously doesn't articulate that, this is his first outing as a tutor himself. Unless maybe he is somewhat trained Leia already in the interim between episode 6 and The Mandalorian / The Book of Boba Fett. But all in all, Grogu is his first outing as a master. I thoroughly enjoyed the scenes ahead with R2-D2 leading Mando to the temple being built by all of these somewhat spider droids, if you will. We had R2 humming away. But this is where we actually get into the meat of Luke and Grogu. It then cuts to them with Mando waiting on his little makeshift bed, or bench, if you will, and Luke and Grogu are meditating. They're getting right to it, as of when they left Mando last season. And without going over every little cutesy moment, even though I feel like I can't help it, like when Luke says, let's go for a walk, and every now and again he just waved his hand to let little baby Grogu like hover and fly over, almost like Sidious gliding in a way. But it's just, yeah, a little coo came out of him every single time he did a little mini assisted Jedi Force jump from Luke Skywalker to catch up with a pace of a human walking. It was just really great seeing what Luke's demeanor is like as a Jedi Master now. Even though we already kind of do know it, it's like technically fresh content happening and unfolding before our very eyes, so it makes a big Star Wars fan, or even a mid Star Wars fan, feel very giddy. Hearing him talk about Yoda and say, "You remind me of someone I used to know, his name was Yoda, he was small like you, but his heart was huge, and the Force was strong in him, and he told him that size matters not," and that's how he talked, and he even said to baby Grogu after this, "Have you ever heard anyone talk like that back at home?" And I really thought in this moment that they were going to show like a clip of Yoda's or baby Grogu's like home planet or something, because if he's saying, "Have you ever heard anyone talk about like that back at home?" well, I guess technically that wouldn't mean the Jedi Order. I mean, back at home would mean Grogu's planet, because not everyone in the Jedi Order back on Coruscant was talking in riddles like Yoda did, so to speak. So I really thought, I was like, God, don't show Grogu's planet. That's one thing I am kind of supportive of. I don't really want to see an origin or anything to the Yoda species, if you will. And then he says, "Would you like me to help you remember?" And I was like, oh damn, you're actually going to do a vision, but it turned out to be of Order 66, where we saw a much younger Grogu. I mean, we can't forget that he's 50-something now, so this technically would have been when he was like, what, in his 20s or something? It sounds weird to say that because he's still a baby nonetheless, but yeah, we saw some Jedis getting battered by clone troopers. I'm sure if I looked into this a teeny bit more, and this wasn't off the top of my head, that hilt that dropped on the floor of The Last Jedi is probably recognizable. I'm not sure. But I'm not going to lie, I would have liked to have seen a continuation on this moment almost, because we have that last clone trooper, one of them at the front, just kind of pointing at baby Grogu. And baby Grogu's getting more and more fearful as literally he sees these clone troopers approach him as the last Jedi left in this hallway, because all three of the other ones died. So how did he get out of that? Was he attached to someone in that moment who helped him escape? I would like to know more details about that, but they probably played it very ambiguous for self-explanatory reasons of, well, if we don't need to explain it, then we can just leave it ominous like this, but you get the idea. But it gave some nice kind of, I say nice, traumatic, but nice flashbacks to, I suppose, the trauma of Grogu remembering the Jedi Order days, and actually how we can't forget he has kind of been low-key trained a bit already. As Luke says, it's almost like he's remembering instead of me actually teaching him. He says, "Welcome back," and then it turns out they're on the top of the hill, just kind of overlooking the beauty of the planet. And by the way, what planet was this? Was this like Yavin? I can't remember. I don't think they actually explained it. Whether it's in the Jedi Academy games, Luke did set up a temple in Yavin, and I know those games aren't canonical, but Yavin just seems like such a great planet to have a temple on, like the Massassi Temple in, as I said, the Jedi Academy games. But either way, whether it's Yavin 4 or not, it looks like Baby Yoda may have passed out, but this is where Luke says, "I will teach you to protect yourself. You know, the galaxy is a dangerous place, Grogu." But this is where Mando bumps into Ahsoka, and I thought, man, they're really pulling out all the stops here and giving us the fan service, because they probably thought, look, this may be fan servicey, but hey, we have an opportunity to technically have Ahsoka before she goes full swing after Thrawn with Sabine, etc., in her own show, to stop by and say hi to Luke. This will give fans the opportunity to see Ahsoka with her master's son. Like, that's crazy. And I think with, again, if you're a really big Star Wars fan, sure, some people may look at this as like, oh, it's just such easy fan service. And I get where they're coming from there, but to me, I can't help but the bias. Like, they know what they're doing. My heart is singing for it, because sure, she didn't do too much in the episode, but it really is something special for Star Wars fans to have Ahsoka Tano, the student of Anakin Skywalker, many decades later, hanging out with the son of her former master, Luke. There's so many, like, behind-the-scenes things happening there that fans can identify. That is, yes, I know it is somewhat capitalizing on the nostalgia, but to me, it is still a nice complementary addition to the episode that, sure, like, while she's in between, I guess, going after Thrawn and taking off there, she has a little bit of a pit stop with regards to see what Luke Skywalker is doing with, I guess, starting the new Jedi Order, if you know what I mean, you know, because this is technically the first mini-temple and his first proper endeavor into creating a schooling situation for future Padawans. We're right at the precipice of Luke Skywalker really starting his mission to train pupils. As I mentioned earlier, Grogu would technically be the first, unless you count Leia, depending on how much training they may have even done together. So little things when Ahsoka says, you know, I'm an old friend of the family, it's just, you know, I know it's so easy to please Star Wars fans with an episode like this, but, you know, I can't help it. It's too good. But this is where they started to play on like, oh man, I know where they're going here. I know where they're going, and I don't mean this in like a bad way. It's just, she was getting into like, so you want to see Grogu, but is this more for you or for him? And I knew what they were gonna do. I was just like, you're gonna try and basically say, do you need to see him? Because if you do, that could distract him, kind of thing. I was like, no, please don't go there. And this kind of speaks larger to my issue with the end, and it's not a monumental issue, but technically, the more you do look under a microscope a bit, it is a bit contradictory and hypocritical in a sense. But ultimately, it all comes down to that moment with Ahsoka saying, with Luke and Grogu on the distance on the hilltop, and it's so adorable. I think baby Grogu gives Luke Skywalker a little fist pump there. I'm pretty certain I caught that. But either way, she says, if you're set on it, then allow me to deliver it. And he's just like, I came all this way. He's right there. But she says, Grogu misses you a great deal. If he sees you, it will only make things more difficult for him. So even without any Jedi business, I do kind of understand, in even like the most basic sense, like take any Jedi obligations or Jedi code out of this. If you aren't going to stay permanently, then maybe it is a bit of a kick in the gut to bond again with that former relationship, to only leave him again, especially as he is a little cute kind of baby still. He won't really understand properly why you have to go, why you can't be here. So yeah, Jedi code aside from all of this, I do get how at the basic premise, like even what Ahsoka is saying here, it is something for Din to consider. And ultimately, he does walk away and allow Ahsoka to give the Beskar chainmail to Grogu. But it was definitely heart-wrenching here, because I was thinking, oh man. So at this point, I did have a bullet point where I was just like, what are they going to do after this? Is this really somewhat the interim update of baby Grogu? And we're not going to have him in the Mando season 3? This was kind of like an extended goodbye in a sense, to kind of just see where his Jedi progress is. But obviously I was kind of wrong about that, and I'm really glad about that, given that it's very obvious what choice Grogu was going to pick at the end of the episode. But still, at this moment, I was like, oh man, what's going on? So at this part, this is where the Jedi training for Grogu goes full swing. These next scenes were unexpected for me, because I thought maybe that was the bulk of it, and we're going to get back to some other things. Maybe we have a couple more scenes from Luke and Grogu, but I didn't expect the acceleration of pacing of his Jedi training to be a little bit of a montage. We got Luke and Grogu on the freaking backpack again, just like Luke and Yoda back in the day. Their little jump attempts were absolutely hilarious when he just did a little pathetic little jump, but out of that came another nice reference, like don't try, just do. And it's like do or do not, there is no try. I mean, I think we've all heard that one before. And again, they kept kind of exceeding my expectations with what we kept seeing, like Luke just jumping from thing to little stepping stones that he was hopping over. Now obviously Luke Skywalker was deep faked here once again. At times, I'm not gonna lie, it does look squiff sometimes, but there was this one particular moment where Luke got out his lightsaber, and while we had baby Grogu like balancing on one leg, managing to do it at certain points, we had Luke just, I guess zoning out in his own training, and I felt like those moments were really cool. Like every now and again you caught like a proper decent deepfake moment where it's like, oh my god, that is Luke Skywalker, like Mark Hamill, like in present day almost. It's really, really cool that way, and also, the voice is pretty spot on. So all in all, I can suspend my disbelief when it comes to this deepfake. It's not absolutely immaculate or perfect, but it is decent enough for me to like really enjoy myself, given the fact that we're even getting this on screen in the first place. Again, more training the remote, that was hilarious, but also turned baby Grogu into a bit of a badass. So we know when baby Grogu is going back to Mando, at least he can kind of Jedi flip like Master Yoda now, because his training was basically progressing up until a point of when Ahsoka says that, you've taught him well. This is where they discuss, the strong bond between Mando, and that Mando brought him a gift. Luke takes the gift. He's also looking a little bit hesitant, because he does comment on Grogu saying that sometimes I wonder if his heart is in it. That's when we get a nice little callback from Ahsoka saying, so much like your father. I mean, I get what they were doing here. It's nice to kind of build that somewhat like history up. You get what he's saying. He is still seeing if his heart is really in it, and that is all due to the big bond that he has with the Mandalorian. Sure, he's here, sure Grogu knows he needs to be here, but there is something that is somewhat irreplaceable with that connection that was forged between Din Djarin and baby Grogu, which is why we all know where this is going, especially with the end of this episode. This is where all of a sudden though, Ahsoka's like, I'm out, and Luke's like, will I see you again? Perhaps, may the force be with you. And I was just kind of thinking, like, again, I kind of wish we knew more of what they talked about or something, because when he says, will I see you again, it just makes me think, well, how long has she been there? Have they even talked or caught up enough. But either way, obviously, he's saying, will I see you again? Because A, he probably likes her. B, they've probably talked about a lot, with regards to the old... I mean, imagine how much Luke Skywalker has probably learned from Ahsoka Tano. This is Ahsoka, who was there at the height of the Galactic Republic in the Jedi Order. So, my god, he's probably had information dumps, probably connected with her in her mind in a similar way to unlocking Grogu's, how he helped him remember the Order 66 moment. So you can only imagine the information dump that has been downloaded or USB'd into Luke Skywalker's brain, so to speak. But this is where we kind of go back to Boba Fett. Hey, who would have known? Wait, this show's... I thought it was called the Book of Mando, not the Book of Boba Fett. So basically here, Fennec Shand is giving a bit of a down low as to what's going on. I am glad that they acknowledge that they are outgunned and outmanned. It feels like, because I've been saying one big hole in this series is that anyone at any time who is threatening them throughout this whole series could have just ransacked the palace. Mando is there, so they're all kitted out, and Fennec says at the end of the day, at least we have enough experienced muscle to act as enforcers, but we lack the numbers to cover our territory if an all-out war comes. Exactly! You have literally no one! Literally no one. That's probably how Chrysantan was even able to walk up to the bacta tank and yank Boba out of it that one time. It's quite problematic. But this is where Mando thought he could come up with a way to get some more troops, so that's when he goes to Cobb Vanth, which is a nice moment because as he's on the way to Freetown in his Naboo Starfighter, we see the Jawas from last season who have taken the crate dragon skull and put it on as a little bust on the sandcrawler, on the front of a sea ship, if you know what I mean. That's just crazy. I never thought I'd see a Jawa sandcrawler with a crate dragon head skull on the front of it. For now, though, initially Cobb Vanth is a little bit hesitant. Mando does make a good point, which I think tips the tables in his favor for Cobb Vanth to really summon a meeting a little bit later before Cad Bane arrives by saying he needs good people to step up or the spice will come through these parts. And the very beginning of this episode was evidence of that with how it's even reached Freetown. The Pykes Syndicate are truly bleeding into everywhere. It's not going to be good news for anyone. So that's why he does begin to summon a meeting, but that's when we have a true Western moment here. A true Western moment with Cad Bane walking into town like a goddamn freaking outlaw. This was crazy, and I have to admit, Cad Bane in live action, I don't get scared or intimidated by horror films or anything like that, but here, there's something about his makeup, with the way they did his teeth and everything in live action, he's quite intimidating. Low-key scary. I feel like his presence was awesome. I have to admit, it is interesting just to comment on the larger discussion about Boba himself in this series, with how Cad Bane says that Boba Fett is a cold-blooded killer who worked with the Empire. Yeah, and it's just is that the same guy we're talking about in this series? Look, I get it, but, people are kind of talking about the characteristic portrayal of Boba in this series. I do vibe with it, but I do have my own kind of opinions there as well. It is a little bit, at times. Regardless, the outcome of this is that Cobb was shot. I think he's fine, though. I mean, he's not fine, but they were saying, get a med pack, so I guess he's alive for now, and they will rally up to help Boba Fett and, Fennec Shand out with Mando. The bigger thing about this that people are getting worried about already, and I do agree, are they bringing in Cad Bane to just kill him off? That would be a really bad decision. I think he's really cool that you brought him in, but if you are just bringing him in for the all-out war in the next couple of episodes or whatever, and he dies as a result of that, that would be an L, I think, from a lot of fans. So don't do that. I hope that Cad Bane I don't know what will happen to him, but I hope whatever happens means that he doesn't die. In the meantime, we have Garsa Thwip's cantina. Everyone's chilling in there, but then some Pykes came in and let off a bomb. So I'm guessing that this is because Garsa Thwip has been somewhat on good terms with Boba, and they don't like that, so they wanted to send a message. But either way, putting that behind us, let's talk about that final scene between Luke and baby Grogu, and he presents him a decision. So this is where my issue in lies with the portrayal of Luke Skywalker here. So overall, I feel like they nailed it on so many, fronts. They really wanted to put their heart in their hands here in this episode and give you so much cool Luke Skywalker. I never believed for one second they're just like, hey, we're gonna do this and completely annoy you about this character and not portray him the way he should be. I feel like they have the best intentions and they did everything they did with the heart in the right place. However, I feel like they didn't nail it in this last moment because It was really cool seeing Yoda's lightsaber here. I believe in the comics, by the way, I feel like that was thrown in the furnace, but I guess that's being retconned because Luke got it. Either way, it doesn't matter, right? He pulls out Mando's gift, which is, as I thought, Frodo Baggins from Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, the mithril chainmail. It literally looks just like that. It looks adorable, as I thought it would. Or Master Yoda's lightsaber, and he ignites it. It's a cute little blade, and obviously baby Grogu is fascinated by both of them, and he's like, oh, especially when he hears that the Mandalorian brought this for you. I think that really kind of, hit Grogu. He's like, oh, wait, what? Dad's been here? Like, wait, what? And he brought me this? So he's really kind of eyes wide about both cool things, right? But Luke Skywalker says, you may only choose one. If you choose the armor, you'll return to your friend, the Mandalorian. However, you will be giving in. These are my problems. You will be giving in to attachment to those you love and forsaking the way of the Jedi. And he continues on by saying, but if you choose the lightsaber, you will be the first student in my academy, and I will train you to be a great Jedi. My issue is, guys, maybe already picking it up, is that what do you mean attachment, Luke? I'm sure there's going to be a bit of a debate in the comments down below, and I've been trying to keep both my feet on both sides of the fence with, like, I guess, despite the original trilogy, maybe Luke has he still sees Han and Leia every now and again, but he's diving more into the Jedi teachings and separating himself. Kind of like going on some mission or religious mission, right? You kind of leave home behind and you go out there. So technically, maybe he isn't so attached to Leia and Han, but that still just doesn't really cut it if you think about it. Luke, with the way that he's been portrayed, he doesn't want to hold up the former Galactic Republic Jedi era. He knew there was why that fell. Like, attachments in of itself isn't something he's concerned about. Like, are we really trying to forget or pretend that he has his own attachments to two very certain people, Leia Organa, aka Skywalker, and Han Solo? And the fact that in the original trilogy, if he didn't even have those attachments, there wouldn't even be an original trilogy. He went and abandoned his training to save his friends, and then went to obviously continue his training, and then still had attachment. He had literal attachment to his father to save him, to save his friends on the forest moon of Endor. Do you see where I'm going with this? Why are we pretending? Why is he offering an ultimatum about, if you basically choose the Mandalorian, you will be giving in to attachment to those you love, thus forsaking the Jedi way. But then, Luke, have you not forsook the Jedi way through being attached? Underline word, attached to Leia and Han. Do you see where I'm going with this? It's just a bit hypocritical. It's contradictory to what we know about Luke so far. I'm not saying it is the biggest problem in the world, because as I said, I try to look at it, and without rambling too much and going on a tangent, like maybe he has really engrossed himself into a Jedi path, but still, we know he's still attached to Han and Leia, so I don't get why there has to be such an ultimatum for Grogu. I mean, technically, the order Luke believes in is I bet he's not all for a massive attachment, but I think he usually is still for hey, yeah, you can be a Jedi. Don't get overly reliant upon emotions, because he will echo a cautionary tale with how if that happens, you can use the Force for dark deeds, and you don't really want to go down that path. But he's not as anal or as specific as the old Jedi Order was with nope, no attachments, no nothing, right? We know that. So I still find this ultimatum for Grogu to be a little bit therein problematic, because it kind of goes against Luke, Han, and Leia, how they were partying at the end on the forest moon of Endor, smiling away, freaking Anakin and Obi and Yoda pop in, there are attachments left, right, and center. Not to mention, yes, I know this is expanded universe stuff, but Mara Jade and things like that, I know that's technically irrelevant, but you get what I'm saying. Bottom line, this ultimately does feel forced, is what I'm going to say, because I know why they're doing it, because low-key, they want to set up a way for Grogu to go back to The Mandalorian Season 3, because we know what Grogu is going to choose. He's going to choose the chainmail. And I think that's adorable. I do still take reward out of this story, but ultimately what I will say is it rubs me the wrong way. Unless I have a really wrong end of the stick here, and I'm open to all and any takes and perspectives, let me know down in the comments. But if you look at it really facts for facts, Luke Skywalker wouldn't have probably have said, however, you will be giving into attachment to those you love and forsaking the way of the Jedi, and making such an ultimatum when he has literal attachments and cares about people. He loves people. If they're ever in danger, he will fight and risk his life for them. He goes and hangs out with his freaking family. It just feels weird to have put that on Grogu. It's just a weird philosophy to put onto Luke Skywalker where he technically doesn't hold that same philosophy that the old Jedi did, but for some reason in this episode at the end he does? Either way though, we know it's a bridge. Grogu's got to choose the chainmail. I would be so gobsmacked if he chose the lightsaber. And Luke's got to basically probably find Mando maybe at the end of the Book of Boba Fett, setting up Mando Season 3. You get where I'm going with this and saying the child chose you. And also, again, with him coming into Mando Season 3 and the little adventures these two are going to get up with, you know, with Mandalore and a Darksaber and all those things I'm looking forward to, we technically have a little bit more of a trained Grogu now from the Master Luke Skywalker himself. He can jump because of what we saw with the remote droid. So there's quite a lot to look forward to with a bit more of a progressed baby Grogu in The Mandalorian Season 3. I really do feel like they're going to use what his training accomplished to elevate some really awesome moments in Season 3. But again, let me know what you think of this episode as a whole. Like this video if you did enjoy it. Subscribe. I've still thoroughly enjoyed this. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I got so teary at so many points. I can't even count how many times. Like, it just always hits me when it comes to really prized moments like this delivered to us in a Star Wars thing. But I'm going to love you and leave you guys, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and may the Force be with you always.